Hi everyone, I am a Major. In this video, we will learn basic editing of parts. First, we can in the drawing area, to draw an intelligent box, or draw a group or component. After selecting the drawn model, we can activate the space segmentation. Then we can here, through the gesture function, to quickly draw some parts. These operations have been discussed before. If you are not sure, you can watch the previous video. Then we put the mouse cursor on any board part. Double-click, and a parameter editing panel will pop up. If we double-click on a certain board, the corresponding board will turn red, and the corresponding parameter panel will pop up. Then we double-click on the corresponding board. In the parameter panel that pops up, edit, and modify the parameters here. We can edit the current edit operation of the current board. Okay, let's look at them from top to bottom. The first one is the thickness of the member, which is equivalent to a plate thickness. The default thickness of the cabinet we draw now is, which is 18 millimeters. If we want to modify the corresponding plate, its thickness, one way is, we can modify it here. Of course, the other way, we can click on the parameters here, click it, and the parameter panel will pop up. We can directly modify the overall thickness of the board. This is a variable. If we modify it here, all the thickness of the board will change. We click modify. We can see that its thickness, it becomes 50. All the plate thicknesses become 50. Okay, let's change it back to 18. Okay, close it. We double click on this board. So the 18 we see here. We can modify it here. Of course, here, we can't click to modify it, because, in the upper right corner, we have selected a variable. We click on this icon. We can see that it selects a variable of cabinet board thickness. So, it calls the variable of cabinet board thickness. So we can't modify it here. If we want to modify it, delete it. At this time, we can modify it. For example, change it to 50. Okay. Then the thickness, it will be 50. We can generate it to see. Well, we can see that obviously this board, its thickness, has become thicker. Okay, after we select it, to activate the space division. For beginners, here is something to note. Now, we start to use some shortcuts. When we activate the space division, we use the shortcut key for space segmentation. This is what we set earlier. And to activate the superdisk, we also use the shortcut key of the superdisk. This is also what we talked about before, okay? Okay, so, we must understand these basic operations, and be able to understand them. Okay, double-click on this board. We change the thickness of this board, and change its thickness back to 18. Okay, so, this one here. Component thickness is actually very simple. Generally, we suggest choosing variables. Choosing variable. The advantage of it is that we can modify all the plates here. To modify all of them, if we don't choose this variable, it can only modify the currently read one, the one that is being edited, and the other boards will not be changed. We need to double-click each board one by one, and modify them one by one, which is more troublesome. So we usually suggest that. Select the corresponding variable here. Okay, regarding variables, we will explain in detail in our subsequent videos. Explain in detail to you. Okay, let's move on. Below is the component position and segmentation. Here, we can see its offset settings. This is inside, and this is outside. We can here select a backplane and double-click it. We can set the offset value. Set its offset value. For example, now is facing inward. We can make it inward. Set 20, which is equivalent to offset 20. Okay, we can right-click generate. Let's take a look. Then this board will be offset inward by a value. How much offset? It will offset by 20. So this offset, inside and outside is easy to understand. Okay, let's activate the space partition. Double-click on this back panel. Then we can switch here to Y. It's still an offset of 20. It will be offset outward. Let's apply it. Here, we can see a change. Right, it has been offset to the outside. So, this offset is very easy to understand. Of course, the default is, we can keep it at 0 to restore it to its default state. Next is a setting for splitting. it can be used to be divided. Of course, choosing different boards. The segmentation that pops up here, the direction of the split, is different. If we choose this side panel, the current split, it can be divided in the Y and Z directions. If we choose this back panel, it's a split of X and Z values, because it has no Y direction. So, it's like this. It will automatically recognize. Okay, if we want to split this board, it's very simple. We just enter the corresponding division value. For example, if we want to divide it into 3 parts, we click OK. So, after we enter 3, it will become 3 boards we can generate. And we can see here, it becomes 1, 2, 3. Okay, we can activate the space segmentation. Okay, double-click on this back panel. We can change the 3 to 2. We can see a line here, divided into 2. At this time, it means it is divided into 2 parts, so this can be controlled by parameters. We can divide it into as many pieces as we want, and make a modification directly. Of course, the splitting of this board, we will discuss it in the next video. Explain to you again. There are many operation details in it. Of course, we can also here to call some common variables. And then, further down, is a common segmentation scheme. Then we can here select the corresponding splitting scheme. For example, we choose this splitting scheme and click Apply. Okay, we can generate it. Okay, in this case, we can see the corresponding effect. Here, there is a seam. Well, this parameter, which we can see here, which is 2 millimeters, which means there will be a 2 millimeter gap. How many parts is it divided into? It's divided into 4 parts. We can change the 4 to 2, and it will be divided into 2 parts. And the gap in the middle is 2 millimeters. Then we can change this. Set the gap to 20 millimeters. In this way, we can see that it will become wider. We can measure it here. Measure it, which is 20 millimeters. Okay. So, this segmentation plan, we will talk about it again. And talk about it again with you, okay? Okay, here we are. Restore it to a normal value. Then we can also click the plus sign here too, to set more segmentation schemes. In this way, we don't need to enter the corresponding segmentation value. We can directly select it here, and it will be quickly called. Right, this is very convenient. Okay, we can click on it. Then enter a corresponding name, and then enter a corresponding segmentation scheme. Then save, and apply it. It will be recorded here. Okay, then next, there is a rotation. We can rotate the board. For example, this board now, if we want to rotate it 90 degrees. For example, if we want it to rotate, or the y-axis direction by 90 degrees, we enter 90, and apply it. We can see that it has rotated 90 degrees. We can restore it to 0. In the x-axis direction, by 90 degrees. We can see the effect. So, according to our needs, we can rotate the current board to do a rotation. Okay. Next is an indentation value. Of course, we first restore this to a default. Then let's look at the indentation. By default, the indentation is 0. We can set the indentation value to a larger value. For example, we set it to 20, which is slightly more obvious. Then we click Apply. We will find that it has no response. So what is the reason for this? This is because we haven't applied it. We need to apply it. We can click Apply. In this way, it will be applied. Or up and down, left and right. In these 4 directions. To apply. Then we click Apply again. Okay, let's see now. There will be an indentation. We can increase the 20 to a larger value, to 50, and then apply it to all, and then apply it to all directions. We click Apply below again. At this time, it will become wider. So after we set it here, we must apply it to all. Okay, in this way, it will take effect. Of course, it can also enter negative values. We can enter a negative value, and enter a negative 50. And apply it. Well, in this way, we can see that this board, it will expand outward. Let's set it back to 0. Of course, we can also here, to reverse it, it's like we set it to 50 now. And apply it. And we invert it, and it will become negative 50. We reverse it again, and it will return to 50. Then we apply it, right? So, we can quickly, to perform an operation. Of course, we can also make separate settings. For example, we can indent it 50 on the top and 100 inward on the bottom. On the left, we make it -50 and a -100 on the right and 100. You can see the effect like this, right? Okay? Apply all 0 and then restore to the default. Next, it's a type, which is equivalent to a construction type. By default, we can choose none. And then, it is a selection of parts and components. Normally, we can just keep the default. Of course, at the bottom, we can see some corresponding plates. After we clicked on it, we can see some icons here. For example, we can modify its label. To modify it, for example, we can delete this board. We can also edit the current board. Click it. A panel for editing will pop up. We can perform more operations on this board. For example, we can change its name. We can add a 001. Add a 001. And then we can give it a name like this. Okay, save it. After saving, we can apply it here. Then we double-click on this board. After double-clicking, if we select this board again, we will find that there is a 001, which is equivalent to the board we just modified. So we can also make more editing operations. This is the basic editing operations of the board. The basic editing operations of the board. Thank you, all.